Hi, folks. You're with Tacit today at your Pushback channel and Tacit State, your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the ideology that's not creeping into, has crept into, and is significantly affecting how rape cases are conducted. And we need to sort of have a closer look at this, I guess. And I was able to look at the papers and reasons for uh, judicial judgment at a case not that long ago. And I won't mention the jurisdiction, but the wording was interesting. Effectively, the wording has changed to that there's just not enough evidence to convict him, even though the facts may not support the claim that he committed rape. Ideologically, he's an oppressor, and there's an imbalance of social power between him and the woman. So really, he is guilty, but we just kind of don't have quite enough evidence to throw him into prison. But don't think that the lack of evidence means he's innocent. It just means we didn't have quite enough to nail him. And in a more just world where ideology counted for more than it does, then we would have got him. But unfortunately, the law still requires us to actually have some facts. And because of that, this guy sort of got away with it. But again, don't think he's innocent. Now, what was interesting in this judgment is that the judge has decided that the woman's evidence is unreliable and unimpressive, and where facts were lacking, or where her claims were contrary to provable fact. It was instead of saying that she committed perjury, she just has a faulty memory and poor little thing, lack of social power. She can't be blamed for that. And even though the woman had an extremely colourful past with many intimate partners, that really doesn't mean anything. The idea that she claimed to be well behaved and chaste earlier on, and this proved to be completely false, that doesn't matter. And by the way, that evidence shouldn't have been allowed anyway, really, in a proper world of ideology and victimhood reckoning. That shouldn't have been allowed, but the law says it has to be. So the judge attacked the law, that it was that it was insufficiently sympathetic to people who have less social power than someone else. And so very activist judge there, but the evidence was overwhelmingly against the woman's claims. And so the judge, you can tell with much reluctance, let the guy go, because the evidence wouldn't support it. But every perjury, everything that the woman did, the fake claims, everything was explained away. And the fact that she didn't get forensic examination until many weeks had gone by. That's just because she's just really health conscious lady, and she was really concerned about maybe she would catch COVID if she had that. So she was just she was just really very concerned about health issues, and everything was explained away. Every failure, every lie, every piece of perjury, every fake claim, every bit of fake evidence, everything was explained away by the judge. Now, it's code speak, which means the woman's committed perjury, and that's not stated, but it should. What should have happened, in my view, what should have happened is this woman has repeatedly committed perjury, has brought fake allegations and fake claims, very serious allegations. It's cost the state, hundreds of thousands of dollars to prosecute this, and she should be herself charged with perjury, willful and repeated perjury, multiple counts of perjury, and should be put on trial, and should, in the event he's found guilty of that perjury, which would be possible to find otherwise, should go to prison herself. But instead, she just walks straight out the door. Oh well, that one didn't work. Oh well, I didn't get away with it, and off she walks. And that's the end. The government and the taxpayers picked up every penny of the expense. It's cost her nothing to indulge her revenge fantasy against some guy. But we need to sort of look at the wider, like so many things in law now, they've become ideological. This idea of facts and evidence and so on, it's largely irrelevant. We're talking about a gender power struggle here, and straight white males have the power, and the white straight woman does not have the power. The mere act of consensual sex, the penetration in itself is in reality it's along the ideological spectrum, that in itself is rape, consensual or not, it's rape. So you have a lot of very strident, hysterical activists, nearly all of them lesbians, interestingly. So why would they give us stuff about heterosexual sex? But ideologically, they want to get at these straight white males. And now there's a difference in the criminology. When black and brown people commit rape, they usually quite overt about it. The clear threats of violence, witnesses, weapons, threat of use of force or weapons, and so on. So it's usually much easier to get a conviction there, given that there's typically quite a lot of evidence around, and so the state really doesn't have to go to that much effort to get a conviction. But because they're black and brown, the perpetrators, and often, not always, often, black and brown women, they're not in the gun sights of the globalist funded, the NGO funded activist class. And they want to go after the activist class. They want to go over the middle class straight white males. They're not really that interested in the black and brown people. Sure, they'll convict it if it gets in their face, and they've got, it's easy to do. But what they really want is those damn straight white males, those fascist Nazi Hitler. That's what they want, and they salivate and lust after putting people like that in prison. The trouble is that most of in fact, all bar a tiny handful of the alleged rapes that take place there, with straight white males being involved, that does not involve force, threat of force, weapons, or anything like that. It's typically a he said, she said. Was consent given? Was it then given, then withdrawn? Did she change her mind seconds before ejaculation? And was there some sort of other consent? Had she had one drink too many? Because in that case, she can give informed consent. But even though she has agreed to go out with the guy, and she's agreed to go back to his place and agree, or her place or whatever. There's so many agreements and consensual acts, but the last act, that final act, she's saying she didn't give full consent, or couldn't give informed consent, or changed her mind during, and that's so it's a he said, she said thing, and there's no evidence that there was any force used or anything of that nature. Now it's much harder to get to either get a case to court there, or to go into conviction for that matter. And typically they're getting convictions on, if they're getting any convictions at all, it's on trivial technicalities. Like she withdrew consent the moment before ejaculation, and so they'll give him 6 months in the slammer or something. They're keen to get them, and ideologically they're keen to pursue the case. Now, cases with that sort of, if it was a black person involved, cases with that sort of evidence they wouldn't bother with. But ideologically, they want those straight white middle class men. They really want them, and they really want to go after them, prepared to put disproportionate resources. They want convictions, they want precedent, they want to be able to just really stick it up those evil straight white Hitler. Now, given that it's pretty much consensual, or again relying heavily on technicalities, then departments of public prosecutions must be infected with ideological fanatics who will take up a case that has almost no evidence because ideologically they feel compelled to do so. Now, there's a lot of activists around the rape thing, and their argument is, well, the reason that there's more black people, black men, being convicted of rape than there are white men isn't because, they tend to use force, it happens more often, or weapons or anything like that. It isn't because of that, it's because of racism. Racism is it, and white supremacy and Nazis and fascists, and that's why white guys aren't. It's not because white guys don't use force. It's not because white guys typically it's a he said she said, was consent fully given, not given, given somewhat but not totally. No, it's not that. It's because they're damn fucking fascist Nazis. And we got to get them. We got to go out and get those fucking Nazis. That's the attitude. So there's huge ideological motivation, and the view. Well, look at the difference in outcomes. For every 100 cases that black men get accused of rape, 90, for example, I don't know the exact numbers on this, but 90 black men get convicted. When it's white men getting accused of rape, only 10 get convicted. There you go. That's it. It shows racism. It shows the fact. That's the proof. So we got to go out and we got to get these guys. And correct this imbalance. We have got to have equity of outcomes here. So they've infected the departments of prosecution, and now the judiciary's been affected as well. The prosecutors, the lawyers, the judges that are being put in there are pretty much all activists. Their job is to go and get straight white males. Now, we need to sort of understand that today lawyers are employees of the globalist controlled state. If a lawyer is handling a case that has no interest whatsoever to the globalists or to the state or to the ideological fanatics or the activists, then the evidence probably will matter and will decide it. Otherwise, the lawyers are representing the globalist controlled state. They want to crush straight white men. So in the event of a rape case, your lawyer who represents you, the straight white male, you're the one accused of rape. Your lawyer, in effect, is representing the globalist state. They're not representing you. You're paying them, sure, but they're not representing you. So one very prominent lawyer who's got a real reputation as being a fantastic lawyer, and he's able to, mass murdering illegal aliens can get off. He's got a really high win rate, so he's representing you, but somehow he's really ineffective in this case. He's losing. He's not asking the questions. He's letting the perjuring woman accuser off the hook. And then his client goes to prison. Oh well, he tried his best. The guy must be guilty if one of the best lawyers in town couldn't get him off. But just looking at the lawyer's behaviour, he was strangely inept in that case, and yet the white guy was a scalp that the activists really wanted. So did the guy's lawyer throw the case, take a dive, as it were, just to placate the globals? Now we need to accept these things are happening more and more. Your lawyer, if it's in divorce or rape or all sorts of things now, your lawyer that you pay for doesn't represent you. They represent the globalist project, and if they don't toe the line and do as they're told, their license to practice law can be yanked at any time that the activists or the globalist controlled governments choose. And there's other ways of getting to you. The frail little woman who says he tried to rape me. They can make those sort of women appear at any time. So you've got to play ball, otherwise. So governments are no longer leaving lawyers alone to represent the client, and client-attorney privilege, and we see that sort of thing in the US. The way the Justice Department treats Donald Trump and his lawyers. I mean, goodness me, what an outrage! They've just trampled over everything that the the law is supposed to stand for. And we're seeing that now in all activist areas, and rape being a prime area of activism. So just looking at the this particular rape case, and others I've certainly noticed recently, is instead of saying the guy's innocent, the position that the activist courts are taking now is that we just didn't have quite enough evidence to nail him. That's all it was. Don't think that fucking straight white male's innocent. That damn Nazi fascist Hitler. Don't think that. He just got away with it. So the inference is that the guy is a rapist and he just somehow just got away with it. That motherfucker. And this is now the standard and the way they're going about it. Now, if the evidence is overwhelmingly in favour of acquittal, or that he didn't do it, then I think that would still play out. But I think if it, as in many cases in this, if it's sort of a 60-40 type thing, if there's on balance of probability he didn't really do it, there's no sign of it, the guy's got a completely unblemished record, this sort of thing, then I think they tend to try and convict or get the guy to accept some sort of a plea. Why don't you sort of take a role for not fully consensual sex or something, and we'll just put you on a good behaviour bond, but it lets us record a great ideological victory against the evil straight white male patriarchy, the oppressors, and that sort of thing. So I see this occurring now, but there's no punishment for the women that commit perjury. They've now become agent provocateurs of the state. They're now the sort of people that lead the crowd into the Congress building on January 6th. They're the ones that pretend to be kidnapping governors. They're now the agent provocateurs, effectively in the employ of the state to create social division, gender conflict, that sort of thing. And they're serving their purpose. We want women to come forward and make the wildest accusations, because we'll then look at that and see, do we even have a chance of getting this guy, or to have a high profile case? And I think that's where we're at now, and just proving that in my view at least, that jurisprudence that once relied on facts and evidence and accountability, that's pretty much gone out the window now. Everything is handed over to the ideology of the globalist project. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.